You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 199. And today I have a really awesome friend of mine joining us to talk about selling the Go-Giver way and creating endless referrals into your business. Are you ready for this? Let's get started.
Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Hey, are you a thought leader, creative entrepreneur, or change maker and want to magnify your impact? Boost influence while creating a financial abundance? Stay tuned for today's inspiring episode with your host, Melanie Benson.
Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's your host, Melanie Benson, profit amplifier and visibility catalyst for expertpreneurs all over the globe who are ready to get their message out in a bigger way and generate great cash flow in the process. Today, I have a really awesome guest lined up for us. We're going to be talking about selling the Go-Giver way. That might be a little bit of a hint of who's joining us today. And before I bring my dear friend Bob Burg on, I want to remind you about a resource that's available to you here. And that resource is designed to help you create cash flow on demand. This resource is essential if you tend to have up and down cash flow hiccups. You have good months and then bad months, or you have launches that don't go as planned and all of a sudden you're scrambling to bring some cash in the door. Or maybe you would just like to have in your toolkit a few proven strategies how to bring cash flow in when you want more. That's what I'm talking about, your Revenue Rush Toolkit. I've made it available to you free at yourrevenuerush.com. And when you download this toolkit, what you're going to discover very quickly is there are 10 proven techniques that I've been using for the last 20 years, and you're going to use them all at different times for different reasons. But what you want is to have in your toolkit a way to bring cash flow in when you need it the most. So what I would recommend is read over the tool, make sure you understand what's available to you. Then when you're ready, put one of those into action and watch the cash flow into your business when you need it the most. Now, I can't wait to introduce to you my friend Bob Burg. I'm so excited to talk about selling the Go-Giver way with my friend Bob Burg. Now, if you are on this planet and have not yet met this amazing man, let me tell you a little bit about him. He is a sought-after speaker at company sales conferences, sharing the platform with everyone from today's business leaders and broadcast personalities to even a former U.S. president. Bob is the author of a number of books on sales, marketing, and influence, with total book sales of well over 1 million copies. His book, The Go-Giver, co-authored with John David Mann, itself has sold over 950,000 copies, and it's been translated into 28 languages. The book he was first known for is Endless Referrals, Network Your Everyday Contacts into Sales, considered by many a sales classic, which has sold over 300,000 copies and to this day is credited by many top sales professionals to be the book upon which they built their sales success. Bob is an advocate, supporter, and defender of the free enterprise system, believing that the amount of money one makes is directly proportional to how many people they serve, and is an unapologetic animal fanatic, and is a past member of the board of directors of Furry Friends Adoption Clinic and Ranch in his hometown of Jupiter, Florida. Hi, Bob. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Melanie, I always love the opportunity to speak with you, and it seems like it's always too long before we speak again.
Well, we did better this time because it was only a few months in between rather than a few years, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to potentially blow your mind here for a second. I was cleaning out an old box of recordings that people send me after I speak at their event and or do a telesummit or whatever from our old days. And I ran across a little CD package that had you on the cover talking about endless referrals and me on the cover. I don't even remember what I was talking about from like 2004 or 2005.
Oh, wow.
I know, blast from the past. And I thought, I kept thinking to myself, when did I meet Bob the first time? And I don't even know that we officially met, but our lives have been going in these overlapping paths for quite some time.
You know, we we either met in person for the first time. It may have been when we both spoke at the Napoleon Hill Foundation program.
That's exactly when it was.
Okay, I was going to say it was either that or at a Jim Palmer event, because we've spoken a couple times at those.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we definitely keep colliding on stage,
But
not
you're one of
literally,
my
but
favorite
figuratively.
people, and one of the people I refer to most. And I just so appreciate everything you do, and more than that, I appreciate everything you are. So just thank you for
Aw.
your great friendship over the years and great mentorship.
Well, I feel very honored to have you mentor me in this art of go-giver selling and referrals, and it's such a profound body of work. And
Thank you.
every time you put a new book out, I learn something new, and every time I talk to you, and even, one of the things, if you don't follow Bob on social media, I highly recommend you do. We'll make sure we link up his social media platforms in the show notes. But Bob, I have learned so much from you, and you embody this go-giver process in how you show up on social media. You are so generous and so kind and so gracious. It's always so much fun to see you do your stuff, but also you're just really authentically connect with people there.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
Well, now that we have firmly bonded in the Mutual Admiration Society, I want to take a step back in time. And I want to catch our guests up with a little bit of your background. How did you first get started in this profession of selling?
Well, I began in media. I was a sportscaster, actually, first on radio, and then I was a newscaster. I was actually the late night news guy for a very, very small ABC affiliate in the Midwestern United States. I had to be the worst news anchor that you've ever seen. I could read the news, that wasn't an issue, but I was 24 years old, had no real knowledge of the news, and I didn't really care. And I was really more a sportscaster who happened to have gotten a job that was kind of an advancement, and that's why I took it, and whatever. And so it really wasn't long though before I wasn't in broadcasting, and I like to say I graduated into sales. Uh, the challenge I had was that I had no formal selling experience. And the company where I first started, their training was, we'll say, negligible. And when I say negligible, I mean non-existent. So it was really just me out there on my own, having no idea what to do. So I just, I knocked on doors, and I made calls, and I showed up, and it was, and I thought I was just supposed to talk about the product and blah blah blah. I mean, I was really a mess. And fortunately, though, after a few months of really floundering, I was in a bookstore, and this is now about 40 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And there was a sales section, which doesn't seem like a big deal now because they're so abundant. But back then, that wasn't a big thing. I had no idea there was such a thing as books on sales. Uh, it, so I happened to see two of them. One was by Tom Hopkins, and the other was by Zig Ziglar. And I picked them up, and I went through them at night. I'd get home from work, and until the wee hours of the morning, I was reading and studying and note taking and dog earing and highlighting and underlining and aligning and practicing. And within a few months, within a few weeks, my sales began to really go through the roof, and which was kind of an interesting thing for me to understand, because there was really no significant difference in me as a person from where I was 3 weeks earlier to where I was 3 weeks later, other than I now had a methodology to work with. And from that point on, I became a big believer in that, learning how to do those things that you don't know how to do but would like to. It's really nothing more than following a system, which I define as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. The key being predictability. If by doing A, it's been proven you'll get the desired result of B, then you know that all you need to do is A, and continue to do A, and continue to do A, and you'll eventually get the desired result of B. That was a big thing for me to learn. And from that point on, I started studying everything I could about sales, going to as many conferences, getting back then they were cassette tape albums, right? That we would buy, and And then really coming to understand too that it was more than just the sales principles themselves. It was about personal development. So I started to build my library of, how to win friends and influence people, the magic of thinking big, uh, psycho-cybernetics, and as a man thinketh, and Think and Grow Rich, just all the things that you have in your library, and many of many of your listeners do as well. So, and so really, then it just became something I really came to fall in love with, and I loved selling, and I still love it to this day.
Mm. You are, it's like you hear Bob Burg, and right after it is the Go Giver way, right? It's almost like it's become synonymous. And I'm sure it's the same with John David Mann as well. And so I think it'd be really great if we could just talk a little bit about what selling the Go Giver way means,
Mhm.
because Go Giver, I know sometimes people think go getter, but this is very different. And I think it's really profound, this ideology that you've developed and written about for this many years.
Thank you. Uh, well, really, when we talk about the Go Giver way, there's a basic premise to it all, and it's very simple. And it's simply that shifting your focus, and this is really the key, shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving, in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's actually the most financially profitable way as well. And, Mel, not for some way out, woo woo, mystical, magical reasons. Oh, just give and do good things. No, not at all. It's actually very, very logical, very rational. When you're that person who can move your focus off of yourself and move it on to helping others, to providing value to them, to helping make their lives better, bring them closer to happiness, help solve their problems. When that's your focus, people feel good about you. People want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in a relationship with you. They want to do business with you. They want to refer you to others. So it really goes back to focusing on the others is the best way to do well yourself. I often, when I speak at sales conferences, I'll often begin by saying, and I say it in sort of a joking around way, not in a dogmatic fashion, but I'll say, nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet. They're not going to buy from you because you need the money, and they're not going to buy from you because you're a really nice person. They're going to buy from you only because they believe they'll be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And that's really the only reason anyone should buy from you or from me or from anyone else. And this is good. It means that entrepreneur or salesperson who is able to just laser focus on that person, that's the person who is creates the context for the sale to happen. Can I really briefly just kind of hit on the go giver, go getter thing for a moment?
Yeah, I think it'd be a good distinction.
Well, here's really how we see it. And by the way, I think we could have done a much better job of explaining this in the book. We actually did in Go Givers Sell More, which was the follow-up. But you know how that is. That's like a headline, being first page on the newspaper and then correcting it with a column on, a brief paragraph on page 25 2 weeks later. I kind of wish we had really made the distinction in the first book, because people often think that a go-getter is the opposite of a go-giver. And we would say that we love go-getters when we define, if a go-getter is defined as that person who takes action. Because, Mel, and you've been sharing a great business building system for years. And that, someone can pay you top dollar to get your mentoring and your coaching and your system, and that's great. But if they don't use it, nothing's going to happen. If they use your
Right.
system, they're going to do really, really well. But action is a big part of it. They've got to take action. So
Right.
we love go-getters because they take action. Now, when you combine a person of action, a go-getter, with a go-giver, someone who's absolutely, totally laser focused on providing immense value to others, you've got a powerful combination. So we always say, be a go-getter and a go-giver, just don't be a go-taker. That's that person who feels entitled, if you will, to take without having added value to the person, to the process, to the situation. And they tend to be very frustrated because as hard as they work, and they often do, they tend to not do nearly as well as they think they should. And even those times that they do, it's very hard to sustain it that way, because really you're in it by yourself. There's no one really who's rooting for you when you're a go taker.
And I know I want to have you talk about the 5 laws of the go-giver in a second, but I'm just going to throw out there that I'm sure this go-taker person doesn't understand the law of reciprocity that you cover. So would you take us briefly through those 5 laws and connect the dots for us?
Sure. Well, the law of value, which says your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment, is really all about providing such an immense experience to the other person over and above the intrinsic value of your product or service, which, it by in and of itself should provide exceptional value that's worth much more to them than the price they're paying. Okay. But then when you add yourself and you add all those elements that you bring to the table personally, they just feel great about paying for the product or service that you've provided. So giving more in value than you take in payment certainly doesn't mean that you don't make a profit. No, go-givers tend to make a very big profit because they sell on value, on high value, rather than low price. So on a very basic level, it would be the accountant who you hire to do your taxes. And while she charges you $1,000 as her price, she saves you $5,000 in taxes. She saves you countless hours of time. She provides you and your family with the peace of mind and security of knowing it was done correctly. So she gave you well over $5,000 in value in exchange for $1,000 fee or price. So she gave you more in value than she took in payment. So you feel great. But she also made a very, very healthy profit, which she should. But this happened because her focus was not on her fee or her price. Her focus was on the immense value she was providing you. The fee that she received was simply the result. So this is why we say that money is an echo of value, right? Money is simply an echo of value. It's the thunder to value's lightning, if you will, which means nothing more than the value must come first. And the money you receive is simply a natural result of the immense value you provided. Law number 2 takes it a step further. This is the law of compensation and says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So where law number 1 says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number 2 tells us that the more people whose lives you touch or impact with the exceptional value you provide, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. Law number 3, the law of influence, says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Again, that sounds counterintuitive or counterproductive, but it's not. The greatest salespeople, top producing entrepreneurs, highest money earning salespeople, the greatest leaders, this is how they live their lives and conduct their businesses. They're always looking out for the best interest of the other person. Now, when we say this, when we say place the other person's interest first, we certainly don't mean that in a way that you should be anyone's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial. Not at all. It's simply that as Joe, the protege in the story, learned from several of the mentors, the golden rule of business, of sales, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you from others than by genuinely moving from that I focus or me focus to an other focus, looking to, as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, advised Joe, make your win all about the other person's win. Law number 4 is the law of authenticity, which says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. In this part of the story, Deborah Davenport, one of the mentors, she shared a very important lesson that she had learned, and that is that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are very important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core. When you do, people feel very good about you. They feel comfortable with you. They feel safe with you because they know who and what they're getting. They also like you, they love you, they trust you, right? And so they're much more likely to want to be in a relationship with you. In order to show up authentically, though, we've really got to be aware of our strengths. And sometimes that can be difficult because as human beings, we tend to be so emotionally close to ourselves. It's often hard for us to see that real authentic value that we bring to the table. Which is why it's so important so often to have a coach, somebody who can help you really understand and embrace that value, both your intrinsic value, but also your market value, those strengths, traits, talents, and characteristics that allow you to bring value to the marketplace, value to others in such a way that you will be financially rewarded for it. But sometimes it takes someone who's not us, right? Who can, who cares about us, but at the same time can look at us dispassionately and able to really see clearly. But it's so important that we embrace those strengths because that's when we can lead with authenticity. Law number 5 is the law of receptivity. And the law of receptivity says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. And Mel, this really means nothing more than understanding that, yeah, we breathe out, but we also have to breathe in, right? It's not one or the other. We breathe out carbon dioxide, we breathe in oxygen. We breathe out, which is giving. We breathe in, which is receiving. Giving and receiving are simply two sides of the very same coin. They work in tandem. Unfortunately, and you and I have discussed this before, the world around us gives us so many horrible messages regarding abundance and prosperity and money. My goodness, you'd think that anybody who makes a lot of money did it through nefarious means, right? And I mean, that's what you generally see. And, as far as whether media, school, conversations, that you hear. And it's just not so. I mean, hey, it's a big world. There's lots of people and people do bad things, But no, if you're working in a free market environment, basically, which just simply means no one's forced to do business with anyone else, the only way you can make money and make it sustainably and make a lot of it is by providing exceptional value to the lives of many people. So we've got to be able to really understand that, yes, we begin with the giving part, and we allow, and this is so important, we allow the receiving. And, people like you and David Nagel and Ellen Rogan and Randy Gage and, so many others, Bob Proctor, and so many other really good people speak on this topic. And I think they do a great job. And that's why I recommend to people, it's really important to proactively study prosperity. Because we get the garbage about lack and about, all the horrible things we get all the time. It just comes in naturally and it's garbage. And so we need to really make sure that we listen to the people. And again, I include you as one of these people, and I often refer you as such, as people who really understand the abundance mindset. This is so very important.
Yeah, thank you for putting me in such good company. And I think, we're at a time in our society where there is a lot of fear and there is a lot of lack mentality. And, I think the only way we make it through the tough times is and really be able to help other people decide to work with us, AKA sell, is by having that abundance mindset. So I love that you brought that through. So speaking of selling and mindset and how do we use these go-giver practices in selling. Can you tell us a little bit about, when you teach salespeople, what do you think the biggest fear is they're facing around mindset?
So I think there are two. One of them is simply that they're intimidated by the selling process, not because they don't enjoy the idea of selling. What they don't enjoy is the idea of what they think selling is, right? So, you've worked with many entrepreneurs who have, come to you because they were really great at something, just like Michael Gerber talks about in the E-Myth, right? They were technicians. They were wonderful at what they do. But to them, the idea of selling, oh my gosh, but what are they thinking when they hear the word selling? Well, they're thinking trying to convince someone to buy something they don't want or need, right? Well, that's not selling. That's called being a con artist. And it's absolutely the opposite of selling. And of course, if you're a good person and you think that's what selling is, well, of course you're going to be scared to do it. Who would want to do something like that if you're a good person? So the first thing regarding mindset is let's really look at what selling is. By definition, selling is simply discovering what the other person does want, does need, does desire, and helping them to get it. So if you look at selling like that, now it's totally different. You can totally get into something like that. The old English root of the word sell was selan, which meant to give. So when you're selling, you're literally giving. Now, someone might say, well, but Burg, isn't that just semantics? And I don't think it is. And I'll tell you why. Because when you have that prospective customer or prospective client on the phone or in front of you or on a Zoom call or however you're doing your presentation, okay, you're doing a sales presentation. So what are you giving when you're selling? I suggest you're giving time, attention, counsel, education, empathy, and most of all, value. So, who wouldn't love doing that? So you should be proud of being a salesperson. And so that's the first part. It's the fear comes from a misunderstanding of what selling really is. The other big fear that most salespeople and entrepreneurs have is running out of new prospective customers. Easy to understand why that's scary, because as people are saying no to you, and more people are going to say no to you than are going to say yes. That's just life. And that's okay as long as we understand that. And as long as we always have new people to talk to. But if you don't know how to create new business, if you don't know how to prospect in a way that is comfortable for you and comfortable with others, and constantly adding to your list of high quality, qualified prospects, well, then every time someone says no to you, you're going to be thinking to yourself, oh no, I'm one person closer to being out of business. So that's one reason why I believe referrals are such a huge, huge part of a successful business. Because when you have a network of endless referrals, you never again have to worry about any one person saying no, right? Because you always have, and you don't have to be attached to their saying yes, because you know that while you prefer that they say yes, you're not attached to it. There's always plenty of people for you to be able to talk to. Referred prospects are easier to set the appointment with based on borrowed influence. With referred prospects, price is generally less of an issue. So you're able to sell on high value right from the start, as opposed to low price. With referred prospects, it's easier to complete the sale. We could say close the sale, complete the transaction, what have you. It's all the same thing. Eventually, someone has to make a decision to do business with you. It's easier to do that with a referred prospect based on borrowed trust, or what we call vicarious experience. In other words, while that person has never done business with you personally, someone who they know, like, and trust has said, yes, this is the person to go to. This is the only person you need to talk to. This person knows their stuff, and they're going to watch out for you, and they're going to take care of you, and their product is fantastic. And that, of course, is worth its weight in gold. And then the other benefit of a referred prospect is they're already of the mindset that that's how you do business, since that's how they met you. So to them, providing you with additional referrals, assuming you ask correctly, is something they're much more likely to do.
Referrals are such a coveted experience, right? I mean, everything you just said is so true. And I know a lot of people have some anxiousness about asking for or how to set up referrals. So, actually, anxiety is kind of a topic I want to tackle in a couple of different directions. I'm going to pause the referral piece for a second, because I also want to stay on this track of selling for a second.
Okay.
People in the sales process, especially if this is something they're a little uncomfortable with and it's maybe not their core superpower in business, I know a lot of times anxiety can come up in the sales cycle when they start experiencing objections.
Right.
Start to have all these questions that they don't know how to answer, or, oh my gosh, what do I do? Do I keep trying to get the sale? Do I let it go? Of course, we all want to be go-givers, so we don't want to come across as go takers, or maybe it was just takers. But what do we do with that anxiety of the objections coming up and not knowing what to do there?
Sure. Well, Mel, objections tend to be the bane of a salesperson's existence. And when you think about it, it almost shouldn't be, because there are certain objections that come up all the time just by the very nature of the business. So you think once you hear it once, well, you learn the correct response, and you really get it in your heart, and you are able to answer, and voila, the person buys. And yet that rarely happens. And then salespeople start fearing being asked certain objections. And when you have that fear, what do? You telegraph that fear, and they kind of pick up on it. And again, it's kind of a vicious circle, if you will. I think the biggest thing is first understanding what objections really are. When someone gives you an objection that indicates they're not going to buy from you, it's really saying one thing, that what they're communicating is they feel that the price they're being asked to pay, and by the way, when I say price, really we're talking about overall cost, because price is just one form of cost. There's cost in terms of lost opportunity, cost in terms of aggravation, cost in terms of price, they're saying the price is up here, okay, and my hand's being held really high right here, and the value that I perceive I would be receiving is down here. Okay, so if they believe that everything they have to do to get this is higher than the value that they're receiving, they're not going to buy, and which makes sense. So we really have to understand why they really are not buying. So let's say they might say to you that the price is too high, or they might say, I have to speak to my business partner first, or they might say, I really want to take this coaching from you, but I need to wait till after the first of the year, or I need to wait another 3 months, and then we'll, which you pretty much know at that point means it's not going to happen, right? So the first thing to understand is that the objection they're giving you is not necessarily the actual objection. It tends to be more a manifestation of the verbal manifestation of the actual objection. So when they say the price is too high, it's not that your price is too high, it's that they see the price as being more than the value they're going to receive. Your job is going to have to be to figure out why, to find out why that is. When they say they have to speak to their partner, by the way, they may have earlier indicated they're the only decision maker. So they don't necessarily have to speak to their business partner, but they said it because inside they don't necessarily know what's bothering them, right? So what do? They give kind of a standard objection. And so it might be they have to speak to someone, or, I really want to do this, but I need to wait 4 months. Well, maybe, but maybe you've also figured out with them that that's not an issue. So what is the issue? And we can only, so what we're not doing is just answering a standard objection with a standard answer, because you can give the best response to your price is too high, or I have to speak to so-and-so about it, or I need to just start 4 months from now. You can give the best response, but since that's probably not the actual objection, it's not going to move the sale forward. So let's look at how we would really want to approach this. Let's say, the customer is Tom. You sell a widget. It's a very high-end widget that he's using to produce a whole lot of witchamahoozies, okay? And everything seems great, but at the very end, after you ask for the order, he says, wow, that's I think your price is really high. That's a lot of money. And now, if you were to say, now, by the way, you may have gone over with him on paper how cost effective it is, because, in 3 months of using it, it will totally replace what he was using before. And then it's right. And so you say that to him and you say, well, as we talked about earlier, really, it's going to pay for itself in 3 months. So it's not too expensive at all. Crash, thud. Right? Because first, that's not really his objection. It's not that the price is too high. There's something else that's missing that you don't yet know. And he doesn't really yet know. He's not sure. And so that's the first part, why that falls on its face. The other thing, Mel, is that the way that answer came across with no empathy, with no real caring about him. It came across more like, well, I want the sale, and so let's do it, right? And that's not why he's buying. So what we need to do is, rather than try to overcome an objection, is work within the context of the actual objection. And we do that together with that person through asking questions. So when he says, wow, that seems really expensive for this, for this product, price is really high. Well, and so you might say to him, so you're thinking X dollars is a lot of money to invest in a MacGuffin or a widget, whatever it was. And he says, yeah. And what you might want to say is, it really may be. Now, when you say it really may be, that doesn't mean you're agreeing with him. It means that you're assuring him that this is something that's very legitimate to discuss. In other words, if he feels it's an issue, it's an issue. Okay, so you're not by saying it may be, you're not saying it is, but you're saying it may be. And you're giving him that feeling of confidence in you, that you're there to work with him, not to overcome him. It could be. If I may ask, what kind of results would you need to see in order to justify this kind of price? Now he says, well, these machines are known to break down a lot, no matter how good they are. And what I'm really worried about is, and now he tells you about how, if customer service doesn't get there and he has to go a whole day without repair, it could cost him, hundreds of thousands of dollars and lost, what have you. So that's what the problem was. So now you can respond to that. And you say, well, that's a great question to ask, because really you've got to be comfortable with our service agreement and in order to, for us to go ahead with this. So again, you've assured him. So now you give him the proof in terms of the actual service agreement. You show him some great video testimonials that you have on your tablet from people who had that similar concern and how happy they are about it and so forth. In other words, you totally prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is that this is fine and not something for him to worry about. Now he feels a lot better about it. And now what you want to say, after clarifying that he now feels good about that, are there any other issues that might give you pause in terms of, going ahead and ordering this? And if he says no, now you go right back again to asking for the order. And so what you've done is, rather than try to answer your price is too high, which again just wasn't actually the objection, you went into a discovery with him together in order to find out what the true objection was and then work through it.
It's all about asking the right questions, isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
I love that. I love that. And, as you're talking, I was thinking of all the people who sell coaching programs or sell events or sell trainings. And, there's basically, you could plug in anything that any service, any offering, and use that same formula. Oh, Bob, I have so many things I want to ask you, but I know we only have so much time on the podcast. I want to just come back to this idea of referrals that you brought up earlier. And in my experience, referrals are such a fuzzy area for a lot of people. A lot of people are nervous about it. They're intimidated to ask. They don't know how to ask.
Mm-hmm.
They're anxious about coming across weird,
Yeah.
What is your advice for someone who's struggling to bring endless referrals into their business?
Fear, again, plays a big part of this. Fear of being rejected when you ask, what if they don't want to give me referrals? Okay. And I don't want to ever dismiss fear, because fear is a human feeling. Okay. It's a human emotion, and we all have it at one time or another. I think one of the things we need to do in terms of getting past the fear of asking for referrals is, in a way, put it in perspective. For example, in the world right now, there are people going through horrible, horrible miseries. Okay. And I mean, I'm not even talking about COVID. I'm just talking about in the world, from wars and kidnappings and starvation and all that. I'm not trying to be morbid or anything. I'm just saying that throughout the world, there's a lot of bad things going on and a lot of pain people have. When you think about it, someone saying no to a referral is a really, really small problem. And so I bring this up because sometimes it's very helpful for us to be able to not get over a fear, but get past that fear by just kind of putting it in the right perspective. So when you're worried about someone saying no, you just think to yourself, the worst thing they could do is just say no. So what? Nobody's going to starve. Nobody's going to die. Nobody's going to, you know what I'm saying? And so that's what, there's also a great book I would recommend people get called Go for No by Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton. It's a short parable, and it does a wonderful job of really reframing the word no. Now, there's also the fear of appearing desperate by asking. I hear that from a lot of even very, very successful salespeople. And I've got to tell them, there's nothing about asking for referrals, assuming you ask the right way, which we'll go through in a second. But if you ask correctly, it has nothing to do with being desperate. In fact, what you do is you come across more as a professional who just expects that people are going to want them to also help people they care about. Okay. And then the other reason you also mentioned, the fear of not knowing how to do so correctly. And that's a good fear to have, because, well, it's not a good fear to have. It's not good to have fear if you don't have to, but it's a good concern because it means we learn how to do it. And it actually is very simple. There are two steps to this, Mel. One is obtaining your customer or client's buy-in to refer you. So let's say Ann is my client. Okay. So I use what I call the referral bridge, or the bridge phrase. And it's simply going to bridge you it's going to act as a bridge from where you are now, the know, like, and trust relationship, to where you can ask for referrals in such a way that both you and your referral source, your client and referral source, are now very comfortable with the situation. So the bridge might sound like this. And as I do more and more of my business now through referrals, I find it's helpful to partner with my clients and friends such as you. Can we take a few quick minutes and run past the names of some other people I might also be able to help? Okay. Now let's go through this very briefly, quickly, and see why this is so powerful to attaining buy-in. When we say, and as more and more of my business now is through referral, this is a very posture-filled way of letting the person know what to expect, what you're going to be asking, and creating the frame that referrals are a natural part of your business. Okay, the next part is I find it helpful to partner with my clients and friends such as you. I find it helpful to partner. Partner is a very powerful word because it gives that person buy-in to your success. And then the next part is, can we take a few quick minutes and run past the names of some? Now, this is what I call quick language or fast language. You don't say it fast, you don't say it quickly, but the words you use imply correctly that you're not going to take up a lot of their time. Okay, listen to these fast words or quick words. Can we take a few quick minutes and run past the names? Okay, and then of some other people, I might also be able to help. Notice I said who I might also be able to help. I didn't say definitely. And the reason why is because I want to create comfort for her that she never has to worry about me coming on inappropriately, being hard sell, staying with it too long when someone's just not interested. I always want to imply that there's always going to be an out or a back door. And so that's the bridge in order to attain the buy-in. So when they say yes, now is when you ask. But the key is to ask correctly. Often people will say, do you know anyone who, or who do you know who? And the person will generally think really hard for a few seconds before responding, well, I can't think of anybody right now, but when I do, I'll let you know, right? Or I'll call you. And of course, it generally never happens. And so it's really not their fault, because when we remember, most people know about 250 to 300 people directly or indirectly. So when they're asked, who do you know, or do you know anyone who? Well, a collage of 250, 300 nameless, faceless people are dancing past their heads, and they really can't envision any one person, right? And they get frustrated, and the harder they try, the more their memory shuts down. Instead, let's make it very easy. Let's create the environment for their success. And I learned this years ago. That very first book I read, Tom Hopkins' book, How to Master the Art of Selling. This took up about a half a page of his book. And what he suggested was that rather than giving them such a wide group of intangibles, you kind of gently funnel down their world into small groups of people they can easily identify. So, for instance, we know Anne is an avid golfer, and we say, "Do you golf often?" She says, "Oh, I golf every Sunday afternoon." We might say, "Do you golf with different people or with a foursome?" She says, "Oh, same foursomes every time." Harriet Brown, Michael Cloud, Dr. Mary Ruart, the four of us, we have been golfing buddies for years. Well, she has just named, she's pictured 3 people. So now you can ask, I'm wondering, would Harriet or Michael or Dr. Mary be open to, or, however you would ask based on what you do. Now, it may be 1, 2, all 3 of them, or none of them. But it's okay, because now she's feeling more comfortable because she's able to actually see people in her mind's eye. So now just go on to the next one. Another frame. We know she's a member of her local NABO chapter, National Association of Women Business Owners. We don't say, is there anyone in your chapter? It could be too big a chapter. Instead, we say, is there anyone in your chapter, Anne, who you're particularly close friends with? Maybe you sit next to every time, or maybe serve on a committee with. Well, now she mentions 2 people, which you can easily see. Maybe one of those, maybe none, maybe both. Go on to another frame. And you can do this until she starts to come up with some names. And once she does, now one name springs another, and there's all sorts of, different frames you can use. And you always want to know what you're going to ask before you go in, so that it's very seamless and very comfortable.
That's so brilliant. I just learned something new today. I love that. I love when that happens. My guests are so talented. Bob, you are obviously a wealth of technique and strategy, and really masterful techniques around selling. And the endless referrals system. I happen to know you're getting ready to open up a new course on this.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you have a way for people to kind of test drive it.
Yeah, we have a new course. It's actually a 9.5 hour online course called Endless Referrals, the Go Giver Way, where I let it all hang out, the entire business building system that I've used and taught for so long. But we have a free 4-part mini course, if you will, called Selling the Go Giver Way. And they're welcome to give that a watch, give that a view, or download it and give it a listen, and see if they like it.
Love it. Well, we will make sure you have links to both of these coveted resources on this episode on the Amplify Your Success podcast show page. And of course, you can always go to burg.com to check out what Bob is up to and fast track yourself over there if you can't get over to the show page. But Bob, I have loved this so much. I've learned it's always so exciting to get into these conversations with you because you obviously know your stuff. I just want to close on a little bit more of a personal note. And I love asking my guests about, you were talking about action takers earlier. I believe there's always at least one big, bold action you had to find the courage to take in your journey that's helped you become the influential, powerful author, speaker, and trainer that you are.
So was there one bold action? Mel, I remember a guy once telling me, an older mentor who said to me, it was really a nice compliment. He said, Burg, you have a bias toward action. And the reason I really like that is because I truly believe that for anything to actually happen, we have got to take action on it even before we know how to do it perfectly, because we never know how to do it perfectly. But I mean, even before, I remember Zig Ziglar once saying, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you learn how to do it well. And of course, he wasn't saying to do something sloppily or haphazardly. He was saying you've got to be willing to get out there and take the action before you totally have mastered it, because it's the only way you're going to eventually master it.
That's powerful. So basically the bold piece for you is somebody who's willing to take action.
And that's kind of what I did. I was willing to take action on those things that I knew I didn't really know to the degree that I was totally comfortable with, but I took it. But once I knew enough to go out there and make mistakes and be able to learn from them, I was willing to take the action.
Love it. Well, as you're listening in, I really want you to embrace this idea of referrals, the Go Giver Way. We're going to strike up a conversation about this in the Amplify Your Success community. So if you're not yet a member of this free community, head over to amplifyyoursuccesscommunity.com. And I am going to challenge you to take Bob's training and put it into action. Come tell us, let's have a conversation, create a little accountability, a little bit of a stretch goal here. How can you put this endless referrals system into your business? Let's start getting you more referrals, the Go Giver Way. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing so much powerful wisdom. I can't wait to share you with the community and inspire more Go Givers to grow their business and help people along the way.
Thank you so much, Mel. Always love speaking with you, my friend.
This is Melanie Benson, your host. Thanks so much for listening in today. If you want to catch up on any of the show notes and circle back on any of the resources we shared in today's show, head on over to the show page at amplifyyoursuccesspodcast.com. And remember, you amplify your results faster when you're in a community of other people who are moving and shaking. Join us at amplifyyoursuccesscommunity.com. One last thing. When you've gained insight from today's episode, help us share that and inspire other people by heading over to iTunes, subscribing, and give it a review. iTunes absolutely loves seeing these reviews pop up, and it actually helps boost my show's visibility. So I would be super grateful for your reviews. And as always, I love seeing your shares of these episodes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Come find me over there. Tag me in your shares. I'll give you some social media love right back. So see you next week for another inspiring episode of Amplify Your Success Podcast.